All right, guys, so this is the first section of notes for Algebra 1. It's over variables and expressions. And the purpose of this section is to get you guys more comfortable with the language and I guess the symbols you guys are going to see throughout the duration of this course. It's a little bit different. It's not much actually concrete math. It's more about getting familiar with the language that you guys are going to see. So let's start with some important vocab. One of the most common expressions you're going to hear me say in this class is algebraic expression. And the definition of that is sums and or products of numbers and variables. Okay, a lot of words there, but here's an example of an algebraic expression. Something like 2x plus 5. That is a very, very simple algebraic expression. We're going to be seeing that a ton in this course. Second most important vocab word you're going to see is this word variables. You guys know what variables are at this point probably. It is symbols used to represent the numbers and or values. Okay. Most commonly it's going to be written as a letter, D, X, Z, P, Q. Any of these letters are examples of variables, and as you guys probably know already, the most common type of variable you're going to see in this class is going to be denoted by the letter X or the letter Y. Okay. Next word, term. It is part of an expression that may be a number, variable, or product / quotient of numbers and variables. Okay, so here's an example of an expression that has two different terms. Okay, the first term we see here is 2 times x. Okay, even though there's two different symbols here, this is just one term. Okay, terms are always separated by either addition or subtraction signs. Okay, so 2x is one term, and another term in this expression is just the number 4. This is another term. What we see right here is a two-term algebraic expression. 2x is the first term, the number 4 is the second term. Factors, quantities being multiplied. Whenever you see the word factors, I want you to think multiplication. Okay, on top of multiplication is the word product. Okay, product is what you get whenever you multiply two things together. It is the result of factors. Factors and product are both big time multiplication words, and there's a bunch of different ways we could illustrate multiplication. X, Y, if I write it like that, it still means multiply these two things together. If you see a dot in between, that still just means multiplication. And then all these versions with parentheses. Okay, I have parentheses around just the Y, just the X, around both terms. All three of these things mean the exact same thing. You're just multiplying these terms together. We've talked about this a little bit before, but we're going to deal with a lot of exponents in this course. The two key parts of an exponential equation are the base and the exponent. Okay, anytime we're dealing with exponents, there's going to be two different parts of it. The base, which is the number down here, and the exponent. Okay, it's a very, very simple trick. How do you distinguish between the two parts of this little term over here? Okay, the base is in the basement. The base is the thing that's a little bit lower. In this case, it's the x. The exponent is the thing that's up top. The exponent is way up here. X is the base, n is the exponent for this particular example. Base is in the basement. It's a little bit lower. Okay, the next thing you see here is a bunch of different words that can help you do a little bit better on word problems. Okay, so a lot of you guys struggle with word problems. I know, I get it. They're hard. We have to reason through it and read through and find context clues in order to figure out what we're trying to do. Okay, so the big takeaway from this is if you see any of these words in this left-hand column here, it's a pretty good indication you're going to use addition in the word problem. If you see any of these words in this column over here, it's a pretty good indication you're going to use subtraction in some context. Okay, difference, minus, subtracted from, all these words mean you're probably going to use subtraction in some context, and the same goes for these two columns. Take a second, look at those, see if you can study them and figure out, okay, what do those words mean? Okay, the next thing we see here are some examples, and I wrote the questions already for you. Make sure in your notes you actually copy them down. Okay, take a second and copy those. So example 1 is saying, I want you to write the verbal expression for each of these terms. Let's start with example A here. We see an 8, we see an x, and then we see a 2 that's a little bit higher than the x. Okay, we're going to write what this means in words. Okay, all we're doing is we're going to actually write out each of the steps. Okay, the first thing we see here is the number 8. Okay, it seems a little bit weird, but what I'm going to do is if I want to write this out in words, I'm just going to write the number 8. That's the first part of that algebraic expression. The second term, or the second piece I see here is this x. But I got to ask myself, okay, what is being done here between the 8 and the x? We don't see any sort of symbol, and if we don't see any sort of symbol, we assume it's going to be multiplication. So what this is really saying here is I'm going to start with 8, and I'm going to multiply it by x. So I'll say 8 times x. And then what is with this little 2? What is this little 2 saying? What's happening here is that this x is being raised to the second power, not the 8, just the x here. Okay, so if I want to write this algebraic expression in words, what it's really is, it's saying I start with 8, I multiply it by x, and then x is going to be, if I raise it to the second power, the key word here is going to be, it's going to be squared. 8 times x squared is what this algebraic expression means in words. Okay, let's do a second example. I see y with a little 5 above it, and a minus symbol times with 16, and then a y next to it. Okay, let's write this out in words. Okay, we'll start with the first piece here. The first letter I see is y. Let's start by just writing y. What is happening to y here? It's being raised to the 5th power. I have an exponent of 5. So what I can say here is I'll have y to the 5th power, or I can just say y to the 5th. And what is the operation being done between these two terms? I have y to the 5th. I see this little symbol here. That's a minus sign. I could just write the word minus. And then what is the second term I see here? I see a 16 and then a y. Okay, what is the operation being done between these two pieces? I start with 16, and then I'm multiplying it by y. I can just say 16 times y. Okay, there's a bunch of different ways I could write this out. Okay, this is the simplest way to do it, but there's multiple answers that could work here. But we just need some sort of format of I got y to the 5th power minus 16 times y. Okay, for the next set of questions, we'll do the exact opposite. This time I'm giving you the expression, then I want you to write the algebraic expression. Okay, basically we're going the reverse of what we did up here. Okay, so it says write the algebraic expression. What I see here is 5 less than a number c. Okay, little bit tricky here, but let's just make sure we reason through it. Okay, 5 less than a number c. I want to get a number that is 5 less than this number c. So what a lot of people do here is they just go in order and they say, okay, that's 5 minus c. Okay, what I'm telling you is that that is completely incorrect. Okay, I don't want 5 minus c. I want to start with c, and then I want 5 less than that number. So what that's saying is I start with c, and then in order to get to the number I want, I have to get 5 less than that, which would be c minus 5. That's my actual answer. Okay, a little bit tricky, but if you looked on your notes up here, some of these words means you have to like flip it. Okay, the little stars mean the direction might be flipped than what you actually read it in. Okay, here's another example. 9 plus the product of 2 and d. Okay, no really trick words here. Let's just go through it piece by piece. I'm going to start with a 9. And I see this symbol plus, so I'm going to use addition in some format. 9 plus the product of 2 and d. What does that word product mean? Product means multiplication. What am I going to do with 2 and d? I'm going to multiply those two things together. 2 times d. I can write it just like this. And that is my answer right there. Okay. Next example, I see 2/5 of the area A. 2/5 of the area A. Okay. What does that word of mean? If I look at my handy dandy chart, I can scroll up and I search for it and I see, okay, if I see the word of, that means multiplication. So I'm going to use multiplication in some format over here. 2/5 of the area A. Okay, 2/5, what does that mean? That is a fraction. That's the exact same thing as 2 over 5. And of means multiplication. So I'll have 2/5 times A, and that's my only other piece. So that is my final answer right here.